Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and I am back after a little bit of a break after Zack Snyder's Justice League just completely exhausted me. Plus I've been making a bunch of short films of my own because I'm a film student and that's all been great and wonderful, but there's a bunch of stuff that's been coming out recently that I haven't had the chance yet to talk about. One of which is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I'm going to wait until after episode 3 comes out to do a review of those 3 episodes, and then I'll probably do the final 3 episodes as well in one video. But I also have Godzilla vs. Kong coming out this week that I will have a review out very soon. But for today, we are going to be talking about the show that I just watched on a whim. I just heard very small little whispers about it on Twitter, called Invincible, based on the Image Comics / Skybound Entertainment whole situation, that entire amalgam of companies and all that stuff, written by Robert Kirkman, is the creator of the comic book, of course, who also wrote and created The Walking Dead. And this show was something that, again, I just watched on a whim. I just heard it came out. I heard it was an R-rated comic book superhero show, and it was animated, and it was starring Steven Yeun, and J.K. Simmons is a voice cast, and a bunch of other very talented voice actors, and just actors and actresses in general. And I watched the first episode, and the first 30 minutes kind of went through, and this will be spoilers, of course, if you guys have not seen the first 3 episodes, but little spoiler here, I will be highly recommending this show to you guys. But let's just get into this thing by saying the first 30 minutes of the episode basically was just a Justice League ripoff. You have, this guy named Omni-Man. He's like the Superman of this world, and you have the Guardians of the Globe, which is the Justice League, and everybody has their own powers. There's a Flash type character, a Wonder Woman type character, Aquaman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter. Everybody in DC Comics, all the big main ones that everybody knows about, is just kind of forms the Guardians of the Globe. And the show follows Steven Yeun's character, who is the son of the most powerful superhero in this world, which is Omni-Man, of course, that Superman-like character. And it follows him discovering his powers, finally getting into his abilities, and training under his dad's wing. And I was watching and being like, okay, this is kind of interesting. It's like a Justice League ripoff. And in a lot of ways, The Boys is a Justice League ripoff. But The Boys has something interesting to it where it is kind of a commentary on the real world type of corporate systems, politics, and all these different aspects of our real world that kind of tie into the show of The Boys. And that's kind of more so the focus on this one, on that show. But on this one, it's more so focused on the characters. And so you get a bunch of character introductions, you get to know these people, and by the end of the episode, it kind of wraps up, and it's like, okay, this is a fine show. It's perfectly fine. Nothing crazy happened in this episode. And then, just like 5 seconds into the credits, it shows all these Justice League characters getting a little beacon message to come back to their main base, and they all go back to the main base, and then Omni-Man shows up and just murders every single one of them. And from that moment that he's grabbing that, I think he's like the Red Blur or whatever the heck that character's name is, but that flashlight character, he's squeezing his head until his eye pops out like Glenn's in The Walking Dead and just explodes. And I was like, there it is. There's that R rating, that TVMA rating that this show has gotten. The thing that I've been seeing all online about, all the Twitter stuff that I've been seeing about this show. And it just happened in that one moment, in this one incredible scene, and I've been hooked ever since. This is definitely something that I would implore all you guys to at least get through the first episode, and just watch all 3 of them, because this show gradually introduces you into this world that it is creating, and it starts off in a familiar type situation. Like I said, it's the Justice League, but there's a slight little twist to it where they all fucking die. They all get murdered by Omni-Man, by the superhero character. And that's where the show gets extremely interesting, because you have Steven Yeun's character, who is Invincible, which every time that they're about to name drop his character, the title card pops up, and it's very, very abrupt and very funny. But it's just such an interesting story, because you know where the show is going. You know at one point Omni-Man is going to be found out by his son, and there's going to be a fight between the two, and this morality that they're forming between these characters, and how I honestly think to this point, after the 3 episodes that I've watched, the most interesting character to me is Omni-Man, because he murders this group of characters and then just kind of passes out, and he's in a coma for a little while, and then he wakes up as if nothing had ever happened. And so this is where things get interesting, because then you start to think, is there some sort of mind control aspect in this? Is he being controlled by some other person, or by some other greater power, some greater big bad behind everything? But then the second episode starts, and there's this really cool villain of the week type situation where there's these aliens from a different dimension that come through these portals and start killing people and blasting through and just blowing people up, which again, very brutal and a realistic aspect of an alien invasion. People are going to die. There's going to be casualties. And you see Invincible trying to save these people, but he just can't. He freezes up in these situations. But this alien situation is actually very cool because they age differently on their planet. And so they'll start to age and grow old and die of old age on Earth, but then they go back to their world and decades go by even though it's just days on Earth, and they come back with much greater technology and they have another fight, and then they get pushed back into their portals and they come out again for a third time and their technology has advanced even more decades into the future. And this is just a very, very cool concept for a villain, just for a villain of the week type situation, which I think this show does a very good job on that villain of the week type thing. But then you get Omni-Man, again, most interesting character in the show so far, fly into that world after he kind of helps this new team, I think it's the T team or something like that, pushes him back into their dimension. And, you know, he could have just stopped it at there and gave them a warning and flew back through the portal and called it a day. But no, Omni-Man just essentially destroys their entire planet. He flies through all the buildings, all the infrastructure. He kills so many of these alien creatures and destroys their world. And you see him at the end holding this giant, like, boulder type thing above the surface. And then he has a line and he flies back through the portal. This thing falls to the surface of the planet. And did he just kill everything? Did he just destroy that entire alien race? And I honestly think he did. And that's where things get extremely interesting for this character, because he's trying to balance being a dad with his son and teaching his son how to use his abilities in the first episode, and that follows through the second and third. But then he does these choices and he makes these decisions that make me think there's something off with this guy. And he's not quite Homelander, because I think that's the immediate reaction that a lot of people will have to the show. It's just an animated version of The Boys. And that's very much not true, because I think The Boys is so wrapped up in the political aspect of the real world type situations that it doesn't have enough time to create characters that I truly love. There's not really a character in The Boys that I find extremely likable, and I think that's my biggest flaw with that show. I believe I have a review up for season 2, and I think in some ways season 2 improved on the characters, in some ways it kind of retracted on it. And I think this show has that violent aspect of it in terms of being an R-rated superhero property. Yes, that is there. Because it's animated, you can do a lot of crazy, just bizarre things with the low budget that they have for animation. And they have freedom to do whatever they want, right? Because, you know, they're adapting these comics that would cost millions and billions of dollars to adapt. And they get to focus, though, on these character beats and following this character of Invincible as he's kind of going through high school, learning these abilities, joining new teams, and being introduced and possibly being a part of the new team of the Guardians of the Globe. But then his father is doing these things behind his back and these terrible things that just make you really question what's really going on. Another really interesting character in this show is this, like, devil-like detective character. I don't really know his name. I think he's voiced by Clancy Brown, which, again, in terms of voice acting talent in the show, it's off the charts. Clancy Brown is a class act for just animation voiceover artists, and he voices this character, and he's a detective, and every time he shows up in a scene, people's breath starts, you see the fog coming out of their breath, and he has entered the room or whatever situation he's in when he's doing that, and he's trying to discover and investigate this situation, and he's on to Omni-Man, and he's on to him. He has conversation with Omni-Man's wife and conversations with the leader of this entire Guardians of the Globe government's, I guess, task force thing that they have set up, and he has conversations with Omni-Man himself, and this gets very interesting because he has some suspicions, and this entire character of him being like a devil from hell, and I guess he's doing these detective works to get out of hell, or whatever the situation with his character is very interesting, and he's, again, the voice actor is great, but this creates a mystery that makes us asking questions, because we know Omni-Man killed these people, but it's a question of why, and that mystery that is surrounding the whole thing that is very interesting. And to get into the main character, I love Steven Yeun as an actor. He was great in The Walking Dead. If you guys haven't seen the movie Mayhem, watch Mayhem. That movie is incredibly bonkers. If you guys want a review for that, I will gladly review Mayhem, because that movie is exactly what the title says. But I do love Steven Yeun, and he is very good as this character, and you get to see him, dealing with this sort of like love triangle type situation with this one girl that he likes at school, but then this other girl who is another superhero that is a part of that T-team, and that love triangle that they're forming within these 3 episodes was actually fairly solid. I actually thought it was fairly well done, because I think her name is Eve. This Eve character's powers is awesome, by the way. She has a great power set, and another thing that I was worried about when I thought it was a Justice League basically rip-off show. As soon as all those characters die and you're introduced to these new heroes that have their own abilities, that's where everything becomes much more interesting, because her powers are really, really cool. And this other Rexplode guy is cheating on her, and you have this other person who I think duplicates, which again, fantastic name for a character who can just kind of duplicate herself into a bunch of different versions, and the things that they do with that character with that whole cheating situation is very funny, and just this entire romance thing is actually working for me, and these characters are working for me. I'm endeared by Steven Yeun as an actor, and his voice talent definitely adds to me being very much liking this character of Invincible. And so overall, what I found from these 3 episodes is, by the end of the first episode, after that scene with Omni-Man killing the Guardians of the Globe, I was hooked from that moment on. I watched all 3 episodes pretty much all at once. I had to go to work and had to stop halfway through the 3rd episode, but I was able to finish it, and I just had to talk about this. I've been very pumped about this show after watching it, whereas Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'm kind of waiting on it to kind of get going. But it's nice that we got these 3 episodes of this show, and we're going to get now weekly from here, because I think these 3 episodes really establish not only the tone, but the characters and that mystery that I love so much about this. So that'll be it for my review for the first 3 episodes of Invincible. Check it out, guys. Watch other reviews that I have on my channel. I just wrapped up WandaVision. I have Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I'm also going to be reviewing Godzilla vs. Kong. But I don't only do the nerd stuff, even though I've been heavily reviewing the nerd stuff recently on the channel. I will be reviewing a crap ton of the Oscar movies. I've already have reviews out for some of them, like Judas and the Black Messiah and Promising Young Woman, but I will be doing all the other Best Picture movies, and I will be doing a couple others that are nominated for acting performances as well, and I'll have, I believe, 8 reviews out before the actual Oscars premieres. So subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see all these things in the channel, in the future of my channel. I'm very excited to make all these videos for you guys. Thanks guys for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.